Welcome to the Pittsburgh Dish. I'm your host, Doug Heilman. Did your family members have fond memories of the Jenny Lee Bakery legacy? We learn what Jenny Lee is up to right now with President Scott Baker. Want to spice up your chilled white wine this summer? Catherine Montest shares a trend that will do just that. And if you're searching for the perfectly simple and cool summer dessert with only 3 ingredients, we step back in the archives and remind everyone of Stephen Bright's lemon posset recipe. All that ahead, stay tuned. The Pittsburgh Dish is supported by Third Space Bakery. Join me on June 26th for a special event with local cookbook author Jessica Merchant of How Sweet Eats. We'll be showcasing Jessica's latest book, Easy Every Day. This event is presented in partnership with White Whale Books, and tickets are available at thirdspacebakery.com. Now, on to the show. Thank you so much for coming over and for being on the show. Would you introduce yourself to our listeners and what you have going on right now in the world of food?
Absolutely, Doug. Hey, thank you for having me. It's such a pleasure to be here and talk to you and tell you a little bit about Jenny Lee. So my name's Scott Baker, the 5th generation of my family in the business, the baking business.
Yes.
So my company's called 5 Generation Bakers. We're the spinoff of Jenny Lee Bakery. 5 generation, as I just alluded, is a literal term.
Yes.
My great-great-grandfather emigrated to the United States in the 1860s and started a family and had opened his first bakery. Well, I guess his only bakery. He only had one, but he opened up the Michael A. Baker Bakery in 1875 in the west end of Pittsburgh.
Okay. Steuben Street, right? I think I read some of the about in your website there. Yeah.
And it was at about 25 Steuben Street. So if you're going through the West End Circle and you cross over the train tracks, like you're going up towards Crafton, pretty much right beyond those railroad tracks is where 25 Steuben Street would have been.
Oh, I mean, that's actually really close to where we're recording right now.
It is
sort of fun for me. Yeah.
Right. Could be there on a bicycle in 10 minutes.
I know. Right. So I love it. Started right here, really in the city or in just the outskirts of the city. And it's gone on in many iterations for 5 generations.
That's correct.
Right. Tell me a little bit about your dad then and that lineage from Jenny Lee.
Sure. So, my dad, and I'll actually start from Michael A. Baker.
Yes.
He had 7 sons, and eventually they all joined his business. Changed the name to the 7 Baker Brothers.
Yes.
It was the largest wholesale bakery in Pennsylvania back in that time. They were pretty neat stories I've heard about them. They rented a plane so that they could be the only bakery that delivers by air. I mean, it was a stunt. It was a marketing stunt, but it was effective. They coined the terms wholesome baked products, wonder baked products. A lot of people have heard of Wonder. I don't want to say the name, but some other products out there. They actually originally coined that term.
Interesting.
And that business continued until in the 1940s. And there were some challenges that was going on, obviously that time with World War II and just coming off their depression.
Yes.
Before the 7 Baker Brothers closed their doors, my grandfather, the 3rd generation, he and a cousin, Bernard McDonald, had their ideas to get into business for themselves. So they started writing their business plan for a retail bakery. 7 Baker Brothers was more of a wholesale bakery.
Yeah.
And back at that time, wholesale didn't necessarily mean commercial business to business, but it was door to door. They were like the milkman. They were the bread men. They delivered up into Erie, into Youngstown, through into Altoona, via horse and buggy.
My goodness.
They delivered bread door to door.
I think I would like that, by the way.
Yeah,
if somebody wanted to deliver
when can
bread,
we get back to
let's
that?
do
right?
that. Okay.
I think they're doing it now. It's Walmart and Amazon gets fresh food to our doors these days.
My gosh.
It's crazy how it all comes full circle.
It does.
So, anyways, Grandpap and I never knew his cousin Bernard. He was drafted into the war and was a pilot, and he was shot down and killed. This was in 1944 that Bernard McDonald died. My dad was born in 45, and that became his namesake. So my dad's name is Bernard. But anyways, backing up to the 3rd generation, Grandpap and Bernard were starting to write their business plan, and they enlisted two of their uncles, two of the seven Baker brothers, to help them come up with a business plan and write their draft. And I know eventually you're going to ask me, where's the name Jenny Lee come from?
Yeah.
Everyone always asks that.
Yes.
Be fun to say it was my grandma, or, I joke a lot and say it was my grandfather's mistress, but anybody that knows him knows he just spun again in his grave. Sorry, Grandpap. He was the most straight-laced and ethical person you'd ever meet. So when they were working on their business plan, Uncle Frank, one of the seven Baker brothers, waltzed into a meeting late, and Grandpap was like, Uncle Frank, we're already on line 3. Do you have an idea for the name of the bakery? And Uncle Frank had come in whistling a song, and he said, Sweet Jenny Lee from sunny Tennessee. And apparently, and I've done some research, I mean, it's not just apparent, it was real. There was a song in the 1930s recorded by Guy Lombardo was pretty popular. He was actually the third or fourth artist to perform it, and didn't really take off until he had recorded it. And so had my great uncle Frank not heard that Sweet Jenny Lee from sunny Tennessee song, who knows what the bakery would have been named.
Isn't that interesting timing, too?
Yes.
And probably if he wasn't late, he might not have heard it. He would have been on time.
Right. And the funny thing is, too, that's why our logo is the Southern Belle, because Sweet Jenny Lee was from Tennessee.
Interesting.
So then, in 1938, they got the bakery off the ground. They started in the corner of the G.C. Murphy building in what then was known as Pittsburgh's Diamond Market, today Market Square.
Yeah, in Market Square.
Yep. Mm-hmm. And, it was an open air market that people from, Crafton or Dormont or all parts of the city would come in, bring their wares, and set up shop and sell them out in the open market. And originally their plan was to just become a retail outlet for Seven Baker Brothers products. Within the first couple of months, he had requests for donuts, which is not something that the Seven Brothers made. So he rented a fryer, bought a fryer, put it in the front window, and started frying donuts. And then he started making cookies that the Seven Baker Brothers didn't make, and started making other items. By the end of the first year, he was making everything himself. And they didn't have the space in the G.C. Murphy building for that much production. So they rented space from a bakery in Dormont.
Okay.
I'm not sure the exact name of the bakery. It might have been Kohler's Bakery. But Frances Kohler was a very good friend of my grandfather's. It was her family's business. And they had rented space to Grandpap, and they would bake it and bring it in the morning and sell it out of the G.C. Murphy building. Well, by a year or two in that space, they completely outgrew it. So 1941, 3 years after the bakery had opened, they bought their first building in McKees Rocks.
McKees Rocks.
Right.
Yes.
And so they moved the entire production operation there, and that became store number 2. So, and he continued to grow the bakery. Eventually he had 3 separate locations in McKees Rocks, one in West Park. He had the Candy Kitchen. It was actually a restaurant along with a little candy store, and then, 50s and 60s, they continued to grow. My dad was the youngest of 3. His oldest brother, Jim, middle brother, Rich, and my dad, Bernie, their ages are separated by 4 years. There was 1 year that they were all at Notre Dame together. My Uncle Jim was a senior and my dad was a freshman. But Uncle Jim graduated from Notre Dame and worked for, I believe, U.S. Steel, one of the big legacy companies in Pittsburgh. Uncle Rich went to fight for us in Vietnam. He actually served on a swift boat with John Kerry.
Wow.
And then my dad graduated Notre Dame in 1967 and immediately joined the family business. So even though he was the youngest, he was the first one in the business.
Oh,
right.
My.
And at this point, they continue to grow Jenny Lee. I recall my dad saying that one of the first projects he worked on was opening up our Kenmar store, which as we opened up a store, we became the Kenmar store, but then we also assigned it a number. Kenmar was number 7. Eventually, in the heyday, in the early 80s, there were up to 14 locations all around Pittsburgh. And I think at that point in time, there was Ray's Bakery. I'm not sure if they were bigger than us or not, but they had multiple locations. I think Jenny Lee was probably the premier bakery in Pittsburgh. And
so many memories for these folks of going to Jenny Lee.
Right.
To get a sweet treat, all these different things. I love
Absolutely.
it. Yeah. Like it's
Absolutely.
the fabric of the area.
It is. I just feel so blessed to be able to continue the legacy. First of all, the family trade, the family business. But when I opened up 5 Generation Bakers, and it was a period of time, it was pretty difficult when Jenny Lee had a major fire in '06 on Thanksgiving Day, shut us down. My mom and dad committed to, the legacy of my grandfather, committed to their customers and their employees, decided to rebuild. And we reopened just in time for the Great Recession.
Oh, in 2008?
We opened up mid-7.
Okay.
And we're trying to rebuild. We had, all of our retail business back, but we also supplied 20 supermarkets at that time. And the supermarkets weren't going to wait months for donuts or decorated cakes. So they had to find replacement suppliers. And, we get it. And we were just fighting to get that business back. But, as we're trying to get our revenue back up, the recession hits and then costs go out of sight. And it just wasn't, costs that you could pass along to your customers.
Yeah.
And so, my parents made the very difficult decision in August of 2008 to close the doors. And at first I find myself, pissed off on unemployment for the first time in my life, burnt out, and but still traveling from Zelienople to McKees Rocks every day to help my dad liquidate and inventory his business. And a couple months ago, I'm doing this, and a couple months go by, and at this point, the anger had subsided, and this was a huge building, Doug. It was a 35,000 square foot building, and we're German. We don't throw anything away.
No, I get it. Yeah.
So I find this file box that was taped shut. It had my grandfather's handwriting on it. It said 1978 or something like that. I cut it open, and I find some file folders in there that have newspaper clippings and family photos and things, from when he was starting over, and newspaper stories about Jenny Lee. And I was just like, you know what? I'm a 5th generation baker. I can do this. And that really was my aha moment.
A spark.
It was. Yeah. Absolutely. And I went home that night. Actually, it's kind of funny because I had a job offer from a buddy of mine that I'd known for a while. He was an entrepreneur. He had a sign business, and he had offered me a national sales manager position. It was, close to double the amount of money I ever made in my life. And, I get home that night, and I said to my wife, Joelle, I don't think I can accept Ed's offer. And she's like, oh yeah, why not? And I said, well, here's my idea. I think I need to start a business. And fortunately, she comes from a family of entrepreneurs as well. And she's like, you know what, Scott, if you need to do that, then let's do it. And I love it. I never looked back.
I love it. And so you're the 5th generation.
Right.
Bakery or baker?
Well, 5 Generation Bakers. It's a very descriptive name.
Yes, 5 Generation Bakers.
People always get it mixed up. It's either 5th Generation Bakery, 5 generations of baker. It's like, I just wanted a descriptive name that might fool some banks into giving me money because I'm an established business.
Well, you have the legacy for sure.
It didn't work. I didn't get any money. But, I could not leave Jenny Lee on the sidelines. That was a brand. It was a Pittsburgh institution. And so immediately my bread was Jenny Lee Swirl bread by 5 Generation Bakers. And if you look at some early versions of our label, the name of the company and the brand are just as big as each other. Now, if you look,
he's grabbing a loaf that he brought me right now.
And I can show you on the side here, 5 Generation Bakers is just a footnote on the side.
Sort of like diminished. You're still pushing now. Jenny Lee is in the forefront of all of it.
We had to tell a story at first. I didn't want people to think it was a continuation or some transfer of business. This was a new business, a new strategy. But now, I look at it, it's Oreo cookies by Nabisco or Cheerios by General Mills. The company that makes the brand is just a footnote.
Exactly right. Yeah. Scott, I do want to break down the current state now. You do not do retail anymore.
Right.
Since the fire and then all of the sort of the reorganization and you forming this new company. So folks can find Jenny Lee Swirl bread in retail locations that you partner with.
Right.
You're also on QVC?
Yes, I am.
Is that right?
Right. Yeah. So you're correct. We're a commercial manufacturer. Part of my strategy, I did not want to be a retailer.
It's
you
hard.
Spend all night making donuts, and then you get a sudden snow squall, and half your customers don't come in. And donuts have an 18 to 24-hour shelf life. So, I was very intentional about being a manufacturer.
Right.
I wanted to partner with expert retailers, Shop and Save, Giant Eagle, Eaton Park, those type of entities are where you can find our breads and our products. You can, we do offer pickup. You can go to jennyleeswirlbread.com.
Yes.
And order a package of bread to pick up.
And this is down at McKee's Rocks.
That's at McKee's Rocks.
Yeah, you can go in, not necessarily
it's our reception area.
Yeah. You're not going into a store.
That's
per
correct.
Se. Yeah.
Right.
You're in the front of the house, the front of the big manufacturing house, right?
And we do a lot of direct to consumer via QVC and e-commerce.
I do want to say, I don't want to spoil anything for folks, but I know things that you do beyond the bread now.
Right.
Because I was gifted a few of these things and I made some darn good cookies. So
yes.
Going back to the roots of Jenny Lee as a bakery, and you mentioned earlier, there were sweets, there were donuts, there were other things. You now have a product line beyond the bread. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
So Doug, one of the things I've found, it's 17 years since Jenny Lee Bakery is closed. And I'm literally still asked 2-3 times a week, when are you going to make the buttercream cakes again? Can you make me the chocolate drop cookies? There's this one woman, Tammy, that just beats me up on social media to get these recipe for these chocolates.
She wants her chocolates.
And I don't blame her. They were good. But, 17 years that lives on and people are asking me for this and for that. And so finally, I partnered with a blending company, Tasty Blend out of Fraser's Bottom, West Virginia. And we spent a year developing authentic box mixes that you can take at home. And now I'm not going to make that, but you can.
Yes.
You can make the blueberry muffins. You can make the chocolate chip cookies. You can make the birthday cake. And we've literally just launched this new product a couple of months ago. It's been so exciting. The response we're getting from people is it does taste exactly like I remember.
Oh, so good. See, I baked with them, but I don't have that taste memory that some folks have.
Sure.
And if I can just kind of chime in here, what I like about the mixes is that they are a bit of a blank canvas. Like you can do a muffin mix with blueberries or something else like cranberries. You gave me the cookie mix, and you can do chocolate chip cookies. Yeah. I think I threw in some. Yours were really good. I did a brown butter. In mine. I think I doubled the chocolate chips that you call for too.
Probably. They were loaded.
Yeah. And I think I threw in, what was the last thing? Oh, cranberries. I put cranberries in mine.
Yep.
Yeah. Not to toot my own horn, but the cookie mix is like, it made it super easy.
You won the competition, so I would toot your horn.
Well, I would say this too. So there's a yellow cake mix. There is a sweet dough, if you're going to make like cinnamon rolls. Am I missing anything?
There's the blueberry muffin, the yellow cake, the sweet dough, and the chocolate chip cookies. And we do have plans for others to come out. But you nailed it. Like, if you want to remember what Jenny Lee tasted like, follow the instructions on the back of the box to a T. If you want to amp them up, if you want to modify them, if you want to give them your own twist and pretend like you mixed it yourself from scratch, by all means, please do it. And in fact, I'm developing a website. It's not live yet, jennyleebakemix.com, where we intend to give tips and tricks. And I'd love to feature you on that website with, your recipe from that competition. So, and also to show there's different ways. Like, everybody's home mixer is different. Somebody's using a hand blender. Somebody might just be mixing by hand. Or a countertop.
Like a KitchenAid.
Exactly. Right. I prefer the KitchenAid. That's what I use at home. And so there are different ways to use each type of home equipment.
Tweak it up a little bit. The technique's just a little bit different. So you want everyone to get it perfect.
Right. And I'll tell you a little other neat piece of Pittsburgh history and baking industry is the Bundy family from Pittsburgh, Crescent Township, USA Pan. So their family goes way back. I went to high school with some of the Bundys. Beautiful family, nice big family like the Bakers.
And great pans, by the way.
Yes,
I have many USA pans here in this house.
Right. So we actually collaborated with the Bundy family and USA Pan when we started to develop these mixes.
Okay.
The idea was that they could bundle them with their pans. If they're going to sell a muffin pan, then it gives them an opportunity to sell the bake mix.
How smart.
Right.
I love that synergy there.
Yeah. And so they've become our biggest outlet for the bake mixes right now.
Well, that was sort of one of my questions. Where can folks find the baking mixes now?
usapan.com, jennyleeswirlbread.com, and as of today, QVC.com.
I thought I saw them on the QVC site. Okay.
Literally, that just went live today. I think there's a bug we're trying to work out, but
we're recording in early June, so Once you hear this, it's probably all worked out. Yeah.
Perfect. This is Scott Baker with Jenny Lee Swirl Bread, and you are listening to the Pittsburgh Dish.
All right, Scott, beyond all of that, I'm going to go back to my original question and say, what else do you have going on in the world of food?
Oh, nothing much. Let me think. So we very intentionally opened 5-Generation Bakers without a retail strategy.
Mm-hmm.
I am so excited. We are opening the first ever Jenny Lee Breakfast Nook. It's going to be a breakfast and diner and sandwich shop. The first location will be in Moon Township, where I grew up.
Oh,
And it's going to be, sandwiches, French toast. The entire menu is designed around Jenny Lee breads. Right. But the good thing is, where people like, you don't have a store, you're a bakery. I smell so good here, but I come in, I can't buy. This will be a retail outlet for our breads and for our cake mixes, bake mixes, other items that we're making.
As well as a daytime restaurant. So breakfast, lunchy kind of place.
Right.
The Breakfast Nook will be.
Right.
I'm excited because I have to say, a couple of years back, you were at one of the Good Taste Pittsburgh Bake-Its, and you were making sandwiches on the spot.
Right.
Specifically, I remember this is the savory breads you can get off of QVC.
Right.
You were doing something with, I think, is there a tomato basil flavor or something? Oh my gosh.
Yes. I remember that event. I believe we were making a gourmet grilled cheese.
Oh,
so it was 2 slices of the tomato basil, California tomato basil bread buttered up. And we toast both sides, and then I think we were putting some spicy jalapeno cheese on there and some fresh basil.
Incredible.
And a little bit of garlic powder.
I don't know if you can answer this, but at the Nook, will we see any sandwiches or items like that?
Oh, absolutely.
So not just sweet, but savory, and also lunchtimey things. So.
You got it for sure. Yeah, so we've developed a smash burger. I'll show you this picture.
Okay.
Our chef, I don't have the time and I don't have the knowledge or experience to be a restaurateur or a cook or, so I partnered with 3 exceptional restaurateurs.
Okay.
So the fun part of me developing this business with these guys is all the tasting meetings that we've had, the menu development.
Can't imagine your job.
Right.
That's incredible.
Right.
And you mentioned it's going to be opening in Moon.
Right.
Do you have a target time frame for us now?
So I'm hoping that by the time this comes out, we're open. We're targeting mid-month.
Okay. In June.
In June, yeah.
All right.
So June
2025.
Yeah, another week and a half, 2 weeks. Right.
I truly had no idea when you were coming over today that it's that close. So
yes.
That's fun.
Yes. Yeah. In fact, this week we had a hiring job fair at the restaurant. My cousin, who happens to be good friends with one of my partners, spent Tuesday and Wednesday building the coffee bar.
Oh.
Yeah. Oh, that's, when you get a good breakfast, you have to have good coffee. And so that's our plan. Just immediately when you walk in, you'll see the coffee bar and be able to order a good cup of joe. We anticipate that we'll do a good deal of takeout as well as dine in. We think there's going to be, possibly about equal amounts of takeout and dine in. And then, possibly as much as 20% of our business will be, I call it swag, but it just add-on sales, retail sales.
Yes. And that's where you're talking about the mixes or making the breads to go and stuff.
You got it. Right.
I love this. Right. Can you remind me, do you know the address off the top of your head?
Yes, it's 1014 Broadhead Road, Moon Township.
All right.
It's been a restaurant for many, many years, dating back to the 70s and 80s. When I was growing up, it was formerly the Pompeo's restaurant.
Okay.
A lot of first dates, a couple last dates there.
There's memories.
Right. And then it operated as Fratangelo Gardens, which was a farmer's market and food outlet for many years.
Scott Baker, you are such a true Pittsburgher because you're telling us what used to be there.
Right. It was down the street from the Giant Eagle.
I know. Scott, you've already given us so much family history and then what's going on currently with the business. It just has me wondering, what was food life like at home growing up or even now? Was there baking at home?
Yep.
Did you guys use the products on a regular basis? Like, what was food like?
Oh, we ate dessert every night at home.
Oh, yeah?
Growing up. Yeah. We never baked at home, or very rarely. I don't recall moments of baking.
Why would you?
Right. Yeah. But, my dad would come home from the bakery with a bag of goods every night. We always had something fresh. Well, we always ate it until it was gone too. We wouldn't waste anything. We'd get a glazed donut and it'd be 4 days old. It'd be, almost rock hard, but you cut it in half and toast it, put a little butter on it, and that zaps it right up.
Whole new thing.
But my mom is a wonderful, wonderful cook. And we had dinner as a family together every night. In fact, I'm sitting here at your table with my arm on it. My mom used to put molasses on the table so that I wouldn't put my arm on the table. You had to eat with proper manners at home.
Yes.
But just, so many memories of just sitting around the kitchen table with the family and talking about our day and enjoying a good meal. My mom, where we're Italian and where we're German on my dad's side, my mom's half Italian, so I'm a quarter. Okay. So she served a lot of Italian meals, and she learned how to cook from my grandma, who was also a wonderful cook.
Oh, I love that. And I just keep thinking now that you are getting into a restaurant business. So just this world of taking food to the next level is everything for your profession and your livelihood at life.
Yeah. Absolutely. There's just so many good moments that happen around food, right? And it's what you're in this business for a reason. It makes people feel good. And frankly, Doug, one of the things that helped me determine my course of what career I was going to do, I came out of high school. I was a lazy student. I had some intelligence and some common sense and stuff. So I made it through school, but I didn't really focus on the right things at that time. And I went to college not knowing what I wanted to do and thought maybe I'll be a teacher. I don't know. It was suggested to me by a counselor friend. And so I started taking some education classes at Kent State. Frankly, I failed out of Kent State. I had a 2.0, but only because
it wasn't your heart song.
It wasn't. It was not.
Yeah.
And thankfully, they had freshman forgiveness, so they dropped the F's off my transcript. But I'm home trying to decide what I'm going to do next. I'm at Kmart, and it was a Thanksgiving break, and there was 2 cashiers bickering back and forth. And she's like, "I can't believe they're going to make us work on Thanksgiving." I get up in line. I said, "Oh, I'm really sorry to hear you have to work on Thanksgiving. Where I work, we work really hard up until the holidays, but we get the holidays off." And she's like, "Yeah, where do you work?" And I said, "Jenny Lee Bakery." And this miserable beast of a woman just all of a sudden calmed, like her face just melted. She's like, "Oh my goodness, your buttercream is so good." And I at that moment, I remember the goosebumps that my hair stood up.
Yes.
And I get it when I recall that moment. At that point in time, like I always thought I was I was the class clown. I couldn't sing. I couldn't dance. I could tell jokes and that was about it. But I wanted to entertain people. And now I'm like, you know what? I'm going into the family business.
You do it in such a great way. And I have to say, again, you're saying you weren't feeling like, book smart or whatever. You're the president of the company now. Hold on, let's just say that, please.
Right.
Okay. So you've done good.
I've done okay. Okay.
Oh my goodness. Well, based on like these folks' reactions to some of the old timey baked goods, is there anything today that comes up as a recipe from one of the products or something you've seen that's really notable? I mean, I love to take the cinnamon bread and just, toast it, butter, whatever.
Right.
Are there recipes now that people are sharing with you or things that your team has come up with that like really does make the product go to the next level?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And that's one of the most fun things I have is when I talk to people about our breads and how to use them. It's like, it's bread, and it's such a common thing. And there's so many different variations of what bread is. Ours is a cinnamon swirl bread. It's a breakfast bread. It's a snack bread. But I've learned most of this from my customers. But when my son, he's 22 now, when he was, 6, 7, 8 years old, we would take a dab of vanilla yogurt and then cut fruit and put it on top of a slice of bread.
Perfect.
Exactly right. The grilled cheese sandwiches with the savory breads.
Yes. It makes a mean French toast, the cinnamon swirl or any of the fruit type ones too.
Bread pudding. My aunt for Christmas every year for her kids makes a French toast casserole. It's like a cross between French toast and bread pudding. A really good friend of ours, one day came over with a pumpkin trifle, and I'm eating it. I'm like, this has my pumpkin cinnamon swirl bread in it. She's like, it does. So, I mean,
those are like the layers, right? Trifle's like the layer.
Right.
Oh
of cream and whipped cream.
Amazing.
Right. But that's where it's really neat to me to learn from somebody else how they're using our breads.
How they're interpreting.
Right.
And I don't want to put you on the spot, but for the swirl breads, how many flavors in total do you currently have?
Well, now that we just retired the banana split cinnamon swirl bread, I think we're down to 14 different flavors.
Oh my gosh, that's still a lot of, I don't even know if I know all those.
Right.
I knew you had some savory. I definitely know the cinnamon and the cranberry cinnamon.
Let me see if I can run through these real quick.
My gosh.
Our original is the classic cinnamon swirl bread, and that's the basis for everything.
That's the top seller.
80% of my breads come in that loaf. Then cinnamon raisin, cinnamon apple, chocolate chip cinnamon, pumpkin pie cinnamon swirl bread, cranberry cinnamon swirl bread. Then we introduced the savories: California tomato basil, Italian olive focaccia, Parmesan garlic and herb, and we do a white sandwich bread. And then we started, our success on QVC has allowed us to introduce more flavors. We have a blueberry muffin cinnamon swirl bread, strawberry cinnamon swirl bread.
And are these only available through QVC?
Or our website.
Or your website.
Right. Most retail partners don't carry all of these.
Yeah, it's just too much, right?
Yeah.
I did one more question about the retail partners. It's not just the Pittsburgh area now, right?
Not at all.
How many states do you guys distribute
You can find our breads in more than 30 states.
Yeah, amazing.
We're in probably close to between 4,000 and 5,000 retailers and restaurants across the country. Now, if you in the retailers, you'll usually find it under our brand, Jenny Lee, and then usually in the bakery department. Occasionally, it's under that store's brand. We'll sell it to them in a clear bag, and they slap their own sticker on it. And then we're in more than 2,000 restaurants under the Velor brand. It's just we wanted to keep food service separate from retail.
I see. Amazing. I mean, I really don't mean to pound you with these facts, but it's like you're so prolific, and I love it. It's not just Pittsburgh based; it's really an American based company.
We become that, and that's part of the reason why we're expanding into so many different products now. The power of QVC. When I'm on air, we'll sell 2,000 individual orders when we go on air, but I'm being broadcast into a couple million homes.
Yes.
And so the Jenny Lee brand, this Pittsburgh institution, is now in the home of people in all 50 states. And in fact, we ship into all 50 states every year. The beauty about the partnership with QVC, if you bought from me, I'd have to charge you the shipping costs from here to Hawaii. You don't want to pay it.
Right.
If you go to QVC, that shipping cost is built in, and it's very affordable because they've got huge leverage.
Yes.
That will leave my bakery and be in your home in Hawaii 2 days later for the same price as if you're shipping to Ohio.
That is incredible. I just love the success. I love that you have the access, and I love that you have all these other new things happening. I usually ask if folks have things upcoming or new goals. Is there anything that we didn't touch on that you have going on soon or coming up in the near future?
Well, I had a meeting today with an engineering and architectural firm to put an addition onto my building. I can't keep up with orders.
Oh my gosh, in McKees Rocks.
In McKees Rocks.
The big production facility.
Yes.
Might be getting bigger.
Might be getting bigger.
Wow.
Right. We talked today about a 7,000 square foot addition that would allow me to double my bakery space.
Incredible. I love it. And I'm thinking about all the opportunities that you're giving for other folks locally if they're looking for employment. You're looking to expand.
Right. Absolutely.
Incredible.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, we're looking for quality people to join our team. We try to have a good culture. We want to make it fun. We believe in the people that work for us. We believe in our community. That's one thing that we're super focused on. When I first took a job in management for my dad, one of the first things he told me to do was join McKees Rocks Rotary. And, being a part of our community is a big part of our identity.
Yes.
So, if you're working on an event, if you've got, a need for things like that, we produce more bread that we can't sell because it might have a small defect, but it's still perfectly edible. And so I'm always happy to help out efforts in the community.
Scott, thank you so much. And thanks for letting us know those things too. Why don't we remind folks that maybe don't know yet, how can they find and follow you? Could you remind us your social handles or website, all of those things?
I mean, personally, you can find me on LinkedIn, Scott Baker. We're 5 generation bakers on LinkedIn. Everywhere else, we're Jenny Lee Swirl Breads. On Facebook, Jenny Lee Swirl Breads. On Twitter, Instagram, I think we have TikTok. You'll have to ask the Jagoffs. They
John,
run
John and Rachel.
Yes, yeah, they run my social media.
Okay.
And Michaela, they do a fantastic job.
They do.
But yeah, it's all under Jenny Lee Swirl Bread.
Okay. And will the Breakfast Nook kind of have its own website and handles eventually?
It will. They'll all kind of connect. They'll all be interrelated. The Jenny Lee Breakfast Nook is a separate company related, but they're separate entities.
Exactly. So it might have its own. It might have its own website.
Right. It will definitely have its own website. In fact, it's set up right now. You can go and check out some early renditions of our menu.
Okay.
You can join our loyalty program already to earn 5% back.
All right.
I think we're already selling gift cards.
Oh, okay. All right, Scott. I always have one final question for our guests.
Sure.
The name of the show is The Pittsburgh Dish.
Mm-hmm.
What's the best dish you've had to eat this past week?
Well, you just caught me coming back from New Orleans, and I've literally have been in New Orleans for a week, so that's unfair because I'm going to tell you I had a muffalata at the Napoleon House that was, of all the good food I had down in New Orleans, that was by far the absolute best.
And can you remind listeners, because I've had this sandwich, like what's on a muffalata?
A muffalata, it's a special Italian dough, and it's brushed with olive oil. There's mortadella, there's salami, and then there's provolone and mozzarella. And then there is a layer of olive salad.
Yes.
And a New Orleans style olive salad is what you want to use. It is a fabulous. In fact, one of my favorite sandwiches on the Jenny Lee Italian alla focaccia is a muffalata. But okay, so one of my favorite Pittsburgh dishes that I had 2 weeks ago, I had and the business started here originally. Rockefeller's was started in Pennsbury. I don't think they're here anymore. They serve gnocchi. It's just out of this world. It's little, super tender puffs of pasta. I know for many years, Teresa's Italian Bakery made the gnocchi for them. Though Teresa's closed last year, so I'm hoping that they're still using the same authentic recipe. It's delicious.
And where is this Rockefeller's?
Rockefeller's is in the Giant Eagle Plaza in Kennedy Township.
That's right. Yeah, because they used to have the 2 locations.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, I missed them here.
Yeah. Yeah. Good food.
Well, those are some best bites. And we can go with muffaletta from New Orleans as well. That still counts as good bites. Scott Baker, it has been such a pleasure to talk with you, to learn your history and talk more about your business and all of the great things going on right now. Thank you so much for taking the time, and thanks for being on the Pittsburgh Dish.
I'm just honored and humbled to be in here and being able to have the opportunity to share my story. Thank you, Doug.
Oh, thank you. Up next, if you're looking to spice it up as you're sipping your white wine this summer, Catherine has a trend that will do just that. Hey, everybody, we're joined today with Catherine Montest, our resident wine expert from Your Fairy Wine Mother.
Hi, Doug.
Hi, Catherine. Hey, as we get into this year, I know in the past we've talked a lot about red wines. I was wondering if there are any new trends in white wines. I feel like people drink white wine more in the summer. I think maybe that's just my own perception.
No, I think your perception is bang on. There is a huge trend in white wine right now, and you can see it all over social media, and that is Sauvignon Blanc with jalapenos in it.
What?
Yes.
Oh, wait, so people are making this, or is there a vintner actually making it?
No, this is kind of an at-home thing.
Got it. Okay.
So you get your favorite Sauvignon Blanc, and this makes sense for Sauvignon Blanc because Sauvignon Blanc already has a little bit of a grassiness to it. So a lot of times you'll get some grapefruit and peach and passion fruit flavors. But it's that lemongrass and the herbaceousness that kind of really marry up nicely with the jalapeno.
Oh.
And there's also a compound that comes from the grape from Sauvignon Blanc called pyrazine, which to a lot of people tastes really strongly of green pepper.
Oh.
And at the heart of it all, a jalapeno is a green pepper after all.
Another green pepper, yeah.
Absolutely. So if you like green peppers and you want a really refreshing and bright summer drink, that's why everybody's throwing their jalapenos in the Sauvignon Blanc.
Okay, so let's just break this down. So I have a chilled bottle of Sauvignon Blanc.
Yep, 45 to 55 degrees.
Okay. Am I just throwing a jalapeno in the bottle, like squishing it down through the neck? Am I cutting it in half first to get a little more heat? What have you seen?
Mostly what I've seen is people cutting it into little slices.
Okay.
And depending on your spice tolerance, floating 1 or 2 or 3 of them in the glass.
Oh, so this is like once you've poured the wine.
Absolutely.
You're not letting it sit for days.
No.
Okay.
And you can even slice your jalapenos and then tuck them in the freezer.
Okay.
So that'll help to chill the wine a little bit or keep it chilly longer when you're drinking it.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
Interesting. You know, when you were talking about the notes of Sauvignon Blanc, I started thinking about margarita because some of those same kind of flavor profiles, grapefruit or the grassiness, that sort of picks up in a margarita. So I could see how this is a different, but playing in the same flavor neighborhood as that.
Kind of dovetailing off the spicy margarita.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
That's a great observation, Doug. I haven't made that connection either.
Okay, so we're saying a wine trend that's out there is Sauvignon Blanc with a, dare we say, a float of jalapeno slices? Yeah.
Yep. Does that sound yummy to you?
I mean, I would try it.
Yeah.
All right, Catherine, thank you so much.
It's always fun to talk with you, Doug.
You can follow Catherine on Instagram at Your Fairy Wine Mother. That's UR Fairy Wine Mother. Searching for the perfect dessert for an evening summer meal? Look no further than the lemon posset. We first learned about this recipe at the end of last summer with Chef Stephen Bright and thought it's worth a revisit. Let's have a listen.
Okay, so this summer has been really hot.
Mm-hmm.
I've been looking for something that is really cool and refreshing. I brought you and Greg, a few samples of it today. It's called lemon posset. And, it's becoming very popular. When I first started making it for clients, I had never heard of it. It was a 3-ingredient dessert that, I thought, wow, how good could this be if it's just that simple? But we realize now that the simpler, the better. So this has sugar, cream, and lemon in it, and it just comes together and it creates this dreamy pudding that totally melts on your palate and leaves just a lemon cream, not cloying. Yeah, it's perfect for summer.
Perfect for summer.
Yep, it's not. You can have a large dinner and then still eat this, and you might want seconds.
What does thicken it? Is it the lemon hitting the cream?
Yeah.
And that's sort of tightening the cream up.
Yeah.
So there's no gelatin in it.
No gelatin.
How amazing.
It's just the pectin from the lemon juice. And
beautiful.
Wonderful.
Thank you so much for the sweet treat.
Oh, yeah. You got it. I hope you enjoy it.
And Chef Stephen Bright, thank you so much for being on the Pittsburgh Dish.
Thank you for having me.
Do you have a recipe? Share it with us. Just visit our website at www.pittsburghdish.com and look for our Share a Recipe form. If you enjoyed the show, consider buying us a coffee for this episode or supporting the show monthly. You can find links to those options at the bottom of our show description. And if you want to follow my own food adventures, you can find me on social media at Doug Cooking. That's our show for this week. Thanks again to all of our guests and contributors, and to Kevin Selecki of Carnegie Accordion Company for providing the music to our show. We'll be back again next week with another fresh episode. Stay tuned.